Margaret Atwood, The Testaments. This is chapter 5, page 24. So, it is story time for adults. Chapter 5. You've probably guessed what I'm going to tell you next, and it is not all happy. My mother was dying. Everyone knew except me. I found out from a Schumanite who said she was my best friend. We weren't supposed to have best friends. It wasn't nice to form closed circles, said Aunt Esty. It made other girls feel left out, and we should all be helping one another, be the most perfect girls we could be. Aunt Vidala said that best friends led to whispering and plotting, and keeping secrets and plotting, and secrets led to disobedience to God, and disobedience led to rebellion, and girls who were rebellious became women who were rebellious, and a rebellious woman was even worse than a rebellious man, because rebellious men became traitors, but rebellious women became adulteresses. Then Becca spoke up in her mouse voice and asked, "What is an adulteress?" We girls were all surprised because Becca so seldom asked any questions. Her father was not a commander like our fathers. He was only a dentist, the very best dentist, and our families all went to him, which was why Becca was allowed into our school. But it did mean the other girls looked down on her and accepted her to defer to them. Becca was sitting beside me. She always tried to sit beside me. If Schumanite or Schuma did not shoulder her away, and I couldn't feel her trembling. I was afraid that Aunt Videla would punish her for being impertinent, but it would have been hard for anyone, even Aunt Videla, to accuse her of impertinence. Shuma whispered across me at Becky, "Don't be stupid." Aunt Videla smiled, as such as she ever did, and said she hoped Becca would never find that out through personal experience, since those who did become adulteresses would end up being stoned, or else hanged by the neck with a sack over their heads. Aunt Esty said there was no need to frighten the girls unduly, and then she smiled and said that we were precious flowers, and whoever heard of a precious, rebellious flower? We looked at her, making our eyes as round as possible as a sign of our innocence, and nodding to show we agreed with her. No rebellious flowers here. Shuma's house had just one Martha, and mine had 3, so my father was more important than hers. I realize now that this was why she wanted me as her best friend. She was a stubby girl with 2 long, thick braids that I envied, since my own braids were skinny and shorter, and black eyebrows that made her look more grown up than she was. She was belligerent, but only behind the aunts' backs. In the disputes between us, she always had to be right. If you contradicted her, she would only repeat her first opinion, except louder. She was rude to so many other girls, especially Becca, and I am ashamed to tell you that I was too weak to overrule her. I had a weak character when dealing with girls my own age. Through at home, the Marthas would say I was headstrong. Your mother's dying, isn't she? Shumat whispered to me one lunchtime. No, she's not, I whispered back. She just has a condition. That was what the Marthas called it. Your Martha's condition. Her condition was what caused her to rest so much and to cough. Lately our Marthas have been taking trays up to her room. The trays would come back down with hardly anything eaten from the plates. I wasn't allowed to visit her very much. When I did, her room would be in semi-darkness. It no longer smelled like her, a light, sweet smell like the lily-flowered hostess in our garden, but as if some stale and dirtied stranger had crept in, was hiding under the bed. I would sit beside my mother where she lay huddled under her blue flower embroidered bedspread, and hold her thin left hand with the magic ring on it, and asked her when her condition would be gone. And she would say she was praying for her pain to be over soon. That would reassure me. It meant she would get better. Then she would ask me if I was being good and if I was happy, and I would always say yes, and she would squeeze my hand and ask me to pray with her, and we would sing the song about the angels standing around her bed, and she would say thank you, and that was enough for the day. She really is dying, Shumat whispered. That's what her condition is. It's dying. That's not true, I whispered too loudly. She's getting better. Her pain will be over soon. She's prayed for it. Girls, Aunt Esty. At lunchtime, our mouths are for eating, and we can't talk and chew at the same time. Aren't we lucky to have such lovely food? It was egg sandwiches, which was ordinarily I liked, but right then the smell of them was making me feel sick. I heard it from my Martha. Shumat whispered when Aunt Este's attention was elsewhere, and your Martha told her, so it's true. Which one? I said. I couldn't believe any of our Marthas would be so disloyal as to pretend that my mother was dying, not even scowling Rosa. How should I know which one? They're all just Marthas, said Shumat, tossing her long, thick braids. That afternoon, when our guardian had driven me home from the school, I went into the kitchen. Zila was rolling pie dough. Vera was cutting up a chicken. There was a soup pot simmering on the back of the stove. The extra chicken parts would go into it, and any vegetable scraps and bones. Our Marthas were very efficient with food and did not waste supplies. Rosa was over at the large table sink rinsing off dishes. We had a dishwasher, but the Marthas didn't use it except after Commander's dinner at our house because it took so much electricity, said Vera, and there were shortages because of the war. Sometimes the Marthas called it the watched pot war because it never boiled, or else the, Ezekiels, wheel war, because it rolled around without getting anywhere. But they only said such things among themselves. Shumat said, one of you told her Martha that my mother is dying. I blurted out, who said that? It's a lie. All three of them stopped doing what they were doing. It was as if I'd waved a wand from frozen them. Zyla with the lifted rolling pin, Vera with the cleaver in one hand and a long pale chicken neck in the other, Rosa with a platter and other dishcloth. They then looked at one another. "We thought you knew," Zyla said gently. "We thought your mother would have told you, or your father," said Vera. That was silly, because when could he have done that? He was hardly ever at our house nowadays. When he was either eating dinner by himself in the dining room or shut inside his study doing important things. "We're very sorry," said Rosa. "Your mother is a good woman, a model wife," said Vera. "She has endured her suffering without complaint." By this time I was slumped over at the kitchen table, crying into my hands. "We must all bear the affections that are sent to test us," said Zyla. "We must continue to hope." Hope for what? I thought. What was there left to hope for? All I could see in front of me was loss and darkness. My mother died 2 nights later, though I didn't find out until the morning. I was angry with her for being mortally ill and not telling me, though she had told me in a way. She had prayed for her pain to be over soon, and her prayer was answered. Once I'd finished being angry, I felt as if a piece of me had been cut off, a piece of my heart, which was surely now dead as well. I hoped that the 4 angels round her bed were real after all, and they had all watched over her, and that they had carried her soul away just as in the song. I tried to picture them lifting her up and up into a golden cloud, but I could not really believe it. Okay, Handmaid's Tale fans, that was the full chapter. At any rate, the next chapter is Him, and I will read that tomorrow night. So this is a much longer video of the reading. I find the more that I read live, the easier it is becoming, and I can read longer. I hope it helps you sleep if you are having trouble sleeping, or if you couldn't get your hands on this book. I hope you're enjoying it. Anyways, take care, everybody. That was Serenity Sunday. I hope it was a fun day. Okay, good night. Bye for now.